current economic situation of many Nigerians, the unemployed, the employed,
underemployed,
or the small business operator, is to say the least perplexing and confusing. Inflation continues to worsen the cost of living of the populace. What we heard, I believe that the inflation figures for last month were put at 28.2 or something like that. So the inflation continues to worsen the cost of living, and it's eroding the purchasing power of citizens with no succor in sight. It's like no matter how much you have, you can't go to the market and buy all the things that you want to buy. This is a conversation we're going to have this morning with two knowledgeable people, and one of them is a financial consultant with one of the big four, Olajide, joining us. Good morning, Mr. Olajide.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us. And we are expecting Dr. Olubenga Adeoye, a chartered accountant and a lawyer, to join us a moment from now. So, Mr. Olajide, of course, to the simple-minded, it would be, so why don't people just increase their staff salaries, increase income to deal with what we're going through at the moment? But that is a rather simplistic way of looking at it, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a very simplistic way of looking at it. So, when we have a vision problem, it's the function of costs, right? That's the source of the problem. The input that you use in producing your outputs becomes more expensive. So it's also, if you try to look at the value chain, it's also a function of where you're sourcing the input from. Are you sourcing it domestically or are you importing it? If you're importing it, then you have a problem of yeah, exactly. Which by the time you factor all of that, you also have the cost of labor, you have cost of power, which of course everything is already impacted by rising inflation level. So it becomes very hard for you to just say, oh, I'm going to increase salaries. Now, there is this flexibility that producers have. They're able to pass on the cost of the raw material or additional cost or the inflation impact. They're able to pass it on to the consumer, depending on the industry. Some industries are, the consumers are quite price sensitive, and there are some industries where the consumers don't have a choice. They just have to bear that additional increase. So if you're able to pass on the increase in price, then to some extent you have flexibility to increase salaries so that your employees can also cushion the impact of that increase in overall price level. However, it's also a function of the percentage of that increase that you're able to pass on. Remember, these manufacturers have competitors in the local market, right? So if you increase your price arbitrarily or in a way that is too excessive, then you're likely to lose out in the market. The reality of things on ground is that people are shifting attention towards luxury products and they're looking at cheaper alternatives so that they can maintain their standard of living. One of the major impacts that inflation has is to erode the standard of living and purchasing power of consumers, right? So that simply means that consumers are looking for cheaper alternatives, and that's what we've seen happen in the Nigerian market. People are cutting down spending, people are looking at cheaper alternatives, people are looking at in their own food at home as against going to restaurants and eating out. So we've seen so many dynamics play out. So it's not just easy to just say, I transfer all the increase in cost or the impact of inflation and then I increase salary. It's a line that one has to balance properly. Now, it then boils down to a point of how do we solve this problem. If you look at the dynamics of Nigeria as of now, we are heavily dependent on importation, both for raw materials and for finished goods. We've seen heavy dependence on inflation on imported products. So for us to change the dynamics, it means that we need to start changing our focus and our orientation towards locally made products. Now, for us to do that, it means that we need to attract foreign direct investment. Now, we have two different levels of inflows. It can be in terms of foreign portfolio investment or foreign direct investment. Now, foreign portfolio investment, while it has its positive impact, but the impact is relatively short term, but we need to attract long-term capital, which in form of foreign direct investment that goes into the real sector to establish production processes that then leads to production of locally made products. At the same time, they need input to fund the manufacturing of this product, so they need to source those input. As of now, some of the major problems that they have is the quality of locally sourced raw materials. So if you take the agricultural space or any industry that relies on the agricultural sector to fund or to more or less oil their machinery to produce their output, one of the major problems that they face is the quality of those outputs. So I believe that the likes of government can step in there and come up with major initiatives that can improve the quality of seasonings and also outputs that goes as the raw materials into their final output. So effectively, we need to get to a point where we produce sufficiently to meet our local demand and get the likes of SO and NAFDAC to also come in to standardize those products that gives the populace the assurance that those products are safe for consumption. We've seen recently in the news that we've seen so many locally, adulterated products. So we need to get to the point where we are comfortable, we are confident in the quality of locally produced output that gives us comfort to then be able to consume them. And over time, we'll get to a point whereby those products can be exported into other countries and at the same time we generate FX income, which will be good for the economy. So if we try to strip out the impact of exchange rates, which is effectively linked to the price level, they are linked. So effectively, you cannot really strip it out. So for us, if we're able to get to the point where we're able to export sufficient quantity, generate reasonable level of FX, then we'll see some form of stability and reduction in level of interest rates, inflation rather. However, for us to do that, it's not something that will be done just over a short-term period. It requires a reasonable level of gestation period for that to happen.
Mr. Lajide, you spoke about FDI, but you must be aware that in the last year, let me say, big manufacturers have packed up their things and left Nigeria. Cases in point. GSK, Procter & Gamble, Unilever, their home care and skin cleansing categories, have left this country. So if the climate were so good enough for FDI to come in, how come these guys are packing up and leaving? The same place you say new people should come into is the place that those who are in are leaving.
Yes, I totally agree with you. It's been a very, very challenging environment for businesses. Right? Some of the challenge they have, of course, is the fact that the ease of doing business is not really as good as it should be. Also the harsh macroeconomic environment. So some of the things that they also face is the fact that they're unable to repatriate some of their funds, and that's really makes things very hard. And at the same time, importing the critical raw materials that they need to produce their output has been relatively challenging because they need to source for FX to import those raw materials. So those are some of the challenges. So for us to be able to attract them, it will be that we have the reasonable level of policies in place. One of those would be to find a way to clear the backlog of FX for those that are trying to repatriate their funds. We need to send that signal to the market that we are ready to do business. We are ready to actually give the flexibility for people to bring in their funds, create a long-term investment opportunity, and then be able to exit, take their money out of the country when the opportunity arises for them. So I think those are the kind of things that we need to start looking at. If people cannot really take their money out when they want to take it out, then it becomes very hard to attract them to come in the first place. However, we cannot see in every challenge there are no opportunities. I believe that as some manufacturers are existing, there creates opportunity for new players to come into those markets, come up with new initiatives to reduce cost of production, come up with new initiatives to utilize locally sourced raw materials to produce their output. We've seen different players already adopting that model, and they are looking at how they can improve the quality of locally produced raw materials so that they can continue their business.
Mr. Olajide, this morning, if you can hear me, I like the fact that you've gone to the local raw materials part, because I wanted to go a little, more local this morning, because every time we're talking about all these highfalutin figures and beautifully crafted language, macroeconomic issues, forex and all, to a large extent, a whole load of Nigerians do not really pay attention to the fact that at the end of it, it's all about people. And some people who may never see what $1 looks like all of their lives. So let's talk about them. Well, Dr. Olubenga Adeoye has since joined us. He's a chartered accountant and he is a lawyer. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here today.
You know, when we talk about the purchasing power of Nigerians, we are mostly talking about salary earners, business owners, and mostly those who live in urban and suburban Nigeria. Let's spare a thought this morning for those who are in the deep rural areas, those who are in what security officials call ungoverned areas, ungoverned spaces, states and communities that literally have to live to eke a living, like literally eke a living. So when we're talking about purchasing power of Nigerians, these people are also in the basket. What should we be thinking about where they're concerned?
Okay, thank you very much. I think the whole issue about purchasing power, people are mixing it up. Purchasing power cuts across everybody. It means the strength of your currency. So in the past, you could have 10,000 naira and you are able to buy a bag of rice. But now, if you have 50,000 naira, you cannot buy a bag of rice. That's the summary about purchasing power. But the starting point about purchasing power is ease of doing business that he spoke about. I've been watching videos of these local government licenses and the rest, okay? I've been watching that over time. Until last week, I just asked for a car in my office that has the logo of the office to know the number of papers that people get. And I have a copy here. If you take time to count this, you will not end this program in 1 hour. This is for one vehicle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is Ifako Ijaye. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Now here, 67 papers, useless papers. And if we are serious as a country, all you need to do at the point of vehicle license renewal is to just have one line item called branding charge, one paper, and put like 5,000 or 10,000. This money, I'm not sure it gets to government. This is a problem.
Wait. Number one, you said this is for one vehicle.
Yes, one vehicle.
Is it a
this
commercial?
is 67.
Is it a commercial vehicle?
No, if you have brand, if you put channels on your car, you need this.
Jesus Christ.
All right? If you put logo on your car, you need this. This is even very mild. If you go to the south, it can be as much as 100 and something. Now, as simple as this
vehicle.
is, yes.
Which is not a commercial vehicle.
The president and all the governors in Nigeria, they need to wake up and say, when are we going to end this foolishness? Yeah. You just need one paper or a line item. Now, here is the way to do it. You can say all vehicles that belong to registered entities, we will put a line item and say branding charge. If you like brand, if you like don't brand. All commercial vehicles, we will put a line item in your vehicle license, branding charge, maybe 5 or 10,000. Pure and simple. Now, if you drive this car to a place like maybe Rivers or some other part of the country, some guys will stop you. They will examine and examine and examine. They will say, oh, we have seen. You do not have gas emission license here. So, and your fine is 25,000. All right? Non-state actors. Now, this is part of ease of doing business. If we are really serious, this nonsense should stop this year. And people,
I'm beginning to sweat.
They look into. Now, this is one aspect of ease of doing business. Now, you go back to local manufacturers. My other colleague was talking about people that left the country. Now, you look at critical sector and say, what are the things that Nigerians need? Do you know Gari is expensive now? Ilubo is expensive, yam flour. Now, what you do is give them special credit or grants and say, produce in large quantity such that Nigerians can afford to buy them. But most companies that are in Nigeria, they are the local government, they are the state government, they are the federal government. Now, I'll tell you some things that are happening in Nigeria. You are saying that there is no employment. Many people want to close down, not because their business is not something they enjoy, but because of ease of doing business. Let me give you an example. NAFDAC, for example, will come and start going from places to places and tell you that, oh, what you are selling is imported. You do not have global listing. Whereas the importers of all the items, they pass through standard organization, they pass through NAFDAC. Now, you that have a small shop in your place and you purchase from this importer, they're going to come after you and say, oh, on your shelf, you have some imported items. You have to come and do global listing. Otherwise, we penalize you. Now, the cost of global listing is actually more than your own profit in 1 year. So you can just pack your bag and get angry and say, look, here is not a place to live. Now, these are the issues to address. And part of my recommendation to Mr. President is that we should have ease of doing business commission and employment generation. And you put a DG there, a DG that will work with customs, that will work with immigration. Thank God for what Tunji Ojo is doing at in Nigeria immigration. Can I tell you something? Custom will go and will lay vehicles on the road, Benin Road, several places. And then they look at the duty you have paid. They said, no, this duty, it means that you have done something. The amount is small. Whose responsibility is that? So it's a high time we sit down to address ease of doing business. So people are leaving not because the business is not good, but because of the pressure. Now, grants for farmers, credit facility. Look, there is no way you can reduce prices of products when interest rate is 30-35%. And I do not know why everybody is keeping quiet about this. The central bank should sit down and say, critical sectors, and we call intervention financing. And you come up and say, this is the rate we will give loan to you because of your relevance.
You know,
before
Dr.
we go into other methods of bulk purchase and the rest.
Dr. Adeoye, you know, both of you have spoken about the macroeconomic issues, and you're not talking about our purchasing power. Well, I can understand. I mean, it is what is produced that will determine what the prices will be. And it is what the prices will be that will determine whether or not people are going to go for that,
buy them or not.
You know, or not. Mr. Olajide, earlier in the week, we got this news that there is a concern coming, particularly in the health sector. I don't remember whether it is something that NAFDAC is aware of yet, but we understand that there has been a hike in the consumption of alternative medicines, i.e. herbal medicine, because of the high costs and unaffordability of orthodox medicine in Nigeria. It was on the front page of, I think it was the front page of Business Day earlier in the week. Now, of course, experts are coming out and saying, giving us the danger alert. This is all part of the purchasing power thing that we should be talking about. Now, many of these things, as you said earlier, we don't make in Nigeria. Some of the active ingredients of medications are not made, in fact, most are not made in Nigeria. That's from, according to NAFDAC. We have to import them. So they are having their concerns in that regard as well. So that is one of several areas in which people are having challenges with their purchasing power. What should Nigerians be looking at, particularly when they are trying to cut costs by looking at alternatives?
For the highlights. So let me start from the healthcare space. Just like you mentioned, there's a lot of challenge there, and of course, because of the purchasing power, people are looking at alternatives. But I see a brighter future, and in the fact of when I speak to the active pharmaceutical ingredient, that's APIs. I think we've seen like two major players in the Nigerian market that are trying to establish local manufacturing of APIs. And by the time they are able to do that, that means that there's going to be a rapid improvement in local manufacturing of pharmaceutical products. So I see an upside in that regard. Now, with respect to the immediate people looking at alternative, the reality is we don't have a standardizing measure of or how to ascertain the quantity of active ingredients in all these alternative medications. So while it may provide short-term relief, I'm a bit skeptical with respect to the long-term impact, right? So it's not a function of what are the alternative options that are safer. Then it means that even though this alternative option in terms of herbals, they are effective, they're good, we need to find a way to standardize or to find a way to measure the content and make it safe for consumption. And it boils down to my earlier comment around locally produced items, that this level of safety and standardizations around them gives Nigerian concerns. That's why we develop taste for imported products, because we want to satisfy our safety, right? So I believe NAFDAC and the likes of SOM can also look at creative ways to ensure standardization in that space, so that whatever people are consuming gives them, they have some level of comfort that it will not provide a long-term harm to their health.
Okay.
So I mean that's just the way
All right, Mr. Lajide, there's an irony here. Okay. So on the one hand, purchasing power is purchasing capacity is dwindling. But there was this report not too long ago, published in one of the papers, January 8 to be precise, saying that 93% of Nigerians still save a portion of their income despite inflationary pressures, which has squeezed incomes. It's a KPMG Nigeria and Ghana report titled In Pursuit of Value. It says in Nigeria, 93% of respondents actively save a portion of their income each month, underscoring a resilient culture of saving despite the challenging economic conditions. Now, the fact that they save at all, forget how much or what percentage of their pay they save, the fact that 93% of Nigerians still save, when we say that, what did we just say now? That purchasing power is squeezing. Please help me understand that irony.
Okay, so I will try to highlight one thing that the other invitee mentioned earlier, that when you look at what people can purchase 10 years ago with 10,000 naira, a bag of rice, for instance, you can buy a bag of rice. But as of now, if you have 50,000, you can buy a bag of rice. So the same thing applies to savings. Say, for instance, I earn 1,000 naira, and then I'm able to save 200 naira out of it. If I'm still saving, say, 200 naira out of my salary as of today, even though inflation has gone up, the reality is the effective power of that savings has declined significantly.
Wow. So,
despite the fact that the cost of living has really gone up, inflation has, eroded the ability to actually live a comfortable life. What the report was highlighting is the fact that people still save. However, it's a function of the effectiveness of that value that they're saving. Now, the report said that around less than 5% of responding, around less than 5% of responding, they saved less than around 20% of their earnings. And if you go to the upper tranche of the report as well, it's saying that over around 2% of respondents save over 50% of their salary. So it's a function of the pyramid. Where in the pyramid are you? Are you at the top of the pyramid or the middle of the pyramid or at the base of the pyramid? So the people that are impacted the most in this case are the people at the base of the pyramid because the little savings that they have has been effectively eroded, even though they are saving, but the actual value of those savings has really been.
Well, Mr. Lajide,
and that's where the problem is.
Yeah, Mr. Lajide, let me bring the same question. Well, Alero is clearly shocked that there are still people in this population who save up to 50%
of their salaries.
Actually, the report, there's a misunderstanding about what we call invisible hand theory. A car that was bought in 2021 for 4.2 million, somebody was in my house on January 1st. He brought the same type of car, but he actually paid 4.5 million naira to clear it.
Oh, just to clear?
To clear. Duty. Now...
Sorry, pause, please. Reverse.
So, a particular car, 4 Taros from the US, Tokumbo, 4.2 million
cost,
brought it to Nigeria, everything, including duty. Now, somebody brought that same type of car now, and his clearing cost was 4.5 million.
Wait, does that include, is that inclusive of the cost of
clearing cost? 4.5. Take note of this, clearing cost, and it's not even the digital screen. Now, the cost of purchase came to about $20,000. That $20,000 is more than 20 million. Do you get the logic now?
Yeah.
So when you say people are saving, that report actually is as a result of fear of tomorrow. So what you have in your hand cannot buy you what you want to buy. So you just dump the money and you are looking at it. Say, what do I do with this? It's actually frustration. Just like he said, if you were saving 2,000 out of your 10,000 before now, and you are still keeping 2,000, the 2,000 is eroded.
Yeah.
So because your 10,000 used to buy you a full bag of rice before, now rice is about 60,000.
70.
So you now look at it that my 10,000 does not worth going to go and get rice again. So he's keeping the money with a view that who knows what will happen tomorrow. Maybe there will be no income again. And I spoke to a colleague, a chartered accountant too, 2 days ago, and he said, have you noticed, in fact, one of my friends who happens to be a car dealer, he told me, have you noticed that if you have 5 million naira, you are even scared to spend because you don't even know what is going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
So this is the invisible hand theory behind the savings that were reported. Also, don't forget that healthcare is also a matter. Now, if we have our primary healthcare centers well equipped, the issue on the drugs, orthodox medicine that you're talking about, would not be there. In other places, all these are discounted, especially a place like Canada. So you see that these people, they cannot afford it, but they must be healthy. And so it's high time government now look into health insurance and say, look, if you are sick, you should be able to go to the hospital without fear in your heart.
Yeah.
Why people go into the alternative medicine that they are not sure of? Some of these are good, but NAFDAC need to regulate all of that to be sure that people are not taking poison. It's because they want to live, they don't want to die, but they cannot afford the hospital bills. So, in whole, government need to look at food, healthcare, and garment.
Can you quickly look at this particular issue? We just got information and it's something you're aware of. that Nigerian equities are trouncing others in other parts of the world. And so it just begs the question, and of course we always get reports that banks are making a kill. You know, maybe I should ask Mr. Olajide, how do you respond to that? How does that factor into all this purchasing power conversation? You're smiling.
I think if you look at some of the stocks that are doing so well, it's primarily some of the players in the defensive industry, about power, about the agriculture. So effectively, in this kind of economy where you have shrinking macroeconomic indices and harsh economic realities, some industry that you see that will perform so well are what we call defensive industries, and that's the ones I just mentioned: agriculture, apparels, real estate, and coal. So the fact that Nigeria is also still recovering from the base effect of the COVID is still there. We've not really exhausted that impact. So all of those things positively impacted the equity market. Now we're probably getting to areas whereby if we don't manage the level of economic activity, we are likely to see negative impact on the equities market. However, this is just my opinion, right? So it depends on how things unfold hereafter. Then we can see subsequent impact on the market. So with banks, I think one of the major factors that is driving the bank's performance is the fact that there was exchange rate devaluation, which of course led to a lot of gains for some of them, and some of them they also had a major hit. So it depends on how well they are positioned, and at the same time there are a lot of charges that the banks make. That's how massive that is. It's quite a lot, and it's contributed a significant portion of the revenue that the bank made. But with respect to the primary macroeconomic fundamentals, I think the fundamentals are there. I think the upsides are still there. However, we need to manage the economy properly so that it doesn't have a negative effect on the stock market. With respect to purchasing power, it is what it is at the end of the day. Those industries will continue to pass on the additional cost to the consumers.
Okay.
And so, yeah, it's now a function of where you want to prioritize your investment objectives.
Yeah. We're fast running out of time. But Dr. Adeoye, with 3 words only, the president disorganized the whole country, it seems, on the day of his subsidy is gone. That one just upturned everybody's life. So government has had from May till now. Do you see any efforts being made to put any initiatives or programs in place to help this upheaval that statement caused in the lives of Nigerians?
Well, from various statements from the president and from other people in government. So an arrangement is being made about CNG buses. The issue is whether they are available or not.
Mr. Adeoye, all that is talk. Anything concrete that has happened since then?
What I would say is that for now, it's difficult to actually point to something concrete that has happened. It's very difficult. But, that's why you also may need the people in government, the Minister of Finance, humanitarian, and all of those people to come and give us data on what they have done. All right? Because sometimes you may be speaking based on your limited knowledge of what they have done. But I would say that subsidy will still come in one way or the other. If you don't subsidize agricultural produce, you have to subsidize energy. You must subsidize something, And everybody knows what is happening in Germany about energy, in France. So subsidy is something you do to make sure you reduce the pressure on your people. And if we say PMS is expensive, diesel is expensive, people must still buy them because you need power in your house. The issue of solution, which we can recommend to Nigerians on how to increase their purchasing power, will be coming in the light of bulk purchase. arrangement. Everybody in channels will say, okay, if we are getting 1 trailer load of rice, which is 600 bags, how much will it cost us? Can channels join with some other media guys, and then the price goes down to like more than 20%, and then you are able to share it. So cooperatives, and that's why the bulk purchase department of various states need to wake up now, such that people will have a place they can go to and get something cheaper. Okay. So for every manufacturer, for every distributor of product, they have what is called quantity discount, which you can get.
Okay. Mr. Lajide, quickly, in just one sentence, your parting shot on this. Dr. Adeoye has given us some idea about what kind of solutions we can begin to look at. Yours, please, in one sentence.
It's as simple as he has put it. Just bulk purchase. That's what I do. So that's what I would advise.
Okay. Mr. Anoluwa Olajide, financial consultant, and in the studio we had Dr. Olubenga Adeoye, a chartered accountant and a lawyer. Thank you very much for coming to look at this issue with us. Because I'm sure that people are looking for ways of augmenting, ways of stretching their naira.
When you mentioned augmenting right now, you just brought that picture. Augmenting.
Oh, that, which is now almost 30,000 naira. Thank you very much, yes, for staying with us. We'll be right back with another interesting conversation in just a moment.